What is that noise?
I want you to weigh in on one thing. The president was pretty adamant when he talked about Republican efforts to change state voting rules.
Dwight is called in twice, so I'm guessing that he's having two devices on as the cause of the feedback.
Okay, so you gotta-
David, do you have hosts?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
That caught a lot of
Thanks.
attention, Daniel, but we're all still kind of trying to figure out what he meant.
All right, I think I have him muted, so. All right, so who do we have here? We got Matt. We got Sanborn. Got Strzok. I know Joe is trying to get in, so let's wait for Joe for a second.
To make sure that the voters follow the restricted rule. Forward. Daniel Lippin, we appreciate your time tonight. Thank you very much.
Here's Joe.
I don't know why. Oh,
You're on now, Joe. There you go.
I'm beautiful there on that picture. Yeah.
All right. Why don't we start off? I think everybody who wants to be here is here. Apologize for the delay in getting on, but we're on now. So we have a pretty light agenda today, but some important work. Rick asked me to do other stuff first, so we could. So he's on another call, and so I'm going to do some of the. Sorry, I'm just going to the notes. The first thing we have is the notes of the last meeting. Everybody have a chance to review those?
Sure, I'll move we approve the minutes of the last meeting as distributed.
Second? Yeah, there you go, Matt. All right, let's approve those. All those in favor? All right. So who wants to be secretary today? It's either Matt or Joe or Matt Sanborn, Matt Fricker, or Joe Pierce. Matt Fricker volunteers. He shall be the secretary. The next item on the agenda, excuse me, is the board positions and the impact of Bob's move to the select board. First of all, congratulations, Bob. We all know you had it in you, and we're proud that you made the ascension. But that means we're down. We're down. Sorry, let me take a drink just a sec. So that means we're down, an active board member. So, it'd be great to get somebody else onto the board. I know there was some discussions about possible board members. Does anybody have any update on the board's consideration, or the select board's consideration of any candidates?
They are considering candidates. They put out an ad that's on the Baldwin Town website. And Tracy Grisey has applied for the job. Bob Flint is the only one who doesn't know her. And I think he wanted to interview her. They're looking for other candidates. But I suspect that barring anything horrible coming out or any spectacular candidate coming forward, we'll probably see Tracy as a member of the board.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Bob, what do you think of my assessment there?
I'm not sure, but as we left it on at the last selectmen's meeting, they were going to call for nominations or people to volunteer and maybe interview some more. I don't know. So.
Yeah, just based on my experience with her, she'd be a great addition to the board, bring in some kind of new view, bring in some diversity, which I think is always helpful to, or it's good for the discussion and good for the board. So, oh, we got somebody waiting here.
And she's a lawyer as well, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold that against her.
Yeah, is that good or bad? Yeah.
But I think, yeah, so, and I've expressed my concern too, that I think we may, I think we may lose another board member here eventually. So, if we have multiple candidates, if the select board could let us know that, that may figure into some people's decision, because I know it's hard for Glenn to make the meetings. Nichols having some challenges right now. So, it may be time to, if we have a whole bunch of people who are interested, maybe get some other folks, have discussions with Nickel and Glenn to see if it's something they can continue to commit to, before we turn away applicants who are, want to be participating. All right. Then
One last thing is, one of the things we were doing on the board was reviewing the terms of the existing members, and it looks like we need to do something. Yeah. So there's a number of terms that are expiring soon this year. I think technically maybe Nichols has already expired in January. So we need to very quickly to do something.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not sure, the terms have always been somewhat, well, yeah, I mean, I guess, it would also be helpful if somebody's terms expiring and the select board is not going to renew that person's term. It'd be great to know that as well. So those folks can plan. I don't know if that's what you're indicating or not, but
Yes,
in terms of
there's a number of them, and yeah, it's something that we need to address soon. And I guess Dwight should have a word in there too, probably, is what he thinks about it. But
Dwight's on mute. If you want to talk, Dwight, you have to get off mute.
all right, I guess that's enough for now. But you're right, we need to work on it right away.
Yeah, you're off mute, Dwight, if you want to talk.
Yeah, we should. The ad went in the Shopper's Guide this week. Like Joe says, it's on the town website and stuff. And within a week, we should have a few names. See if anybody steps forward to it. Tracy has come down. We've talked to her. And so I think we got some good prospects, Saya.
Have you guys talked to Glenn or Nickel about whether or not they want to continue?
No, and we got an appeals board member doesn't want to continue either. So we got one on the appeals board that's got to be replaced.
Okay. Yeah, I think my term's up this year too.
Don't get hopeful, David.
I think I just noticed it in the town report when I was doing that. I think I just noticed that I'm just going on the website now to see. Where is it on the website? Does anybody know?
Oh, but
For-
I think it's in July. I remember the,
Yeah, it doesn't say. It doesn't say on the website, but all right. Well, let us know what you guys want to do. I think it'll impact, I guess I guess we just need to kind of know so we can figure out what to do and how to organize stuff. And then we have the we have the elections coming up. I mean, I guess we need to know fairly soon if you plan to reappoint me, because otherwise I shouldn't be running for office if I'm not going to be reappointed. And then it would be helpful just to kind of know what you guys are thinking. Is I guess so when are you supposed to make a decision on replacing Bob's position?
Well, we figured we'd let it go at least a week and advertise the shopper's guide, see what we can get for other names and stuff. But I think Tracy's name is right up by right top right now.
And Bob's position was an alternate position, wasn't it? I don't, not that we really, we don't really strictly hold to that, but yeah, it might be wise to talk to Nickel and see if he can continue, because he's a full board member. So if Tracy is interested and Nichols can't commit, then maybe you want to put Tracy as a full board member instead of an alternate. Anyways, the other thing is the board elections coming up. I raised it last meeting. I know it's not till next meeting, but I just want to throw out there that I think we should seriously consider replacing me as the chair. The more I thought about it and have talked to a couple board members about it, I think it makes sense to change the leadership of the board every once in a while to try to, we all, like I said last time, we all have blind spots, and if one person's in this position too long, then those blind spots become pretty big. I'd like to see Matt or Joe be the chair, and then whichever one doesn't want to be the chair, be the vice chair. Matt Fricker be the, it's just kind of what I'm thinking. And then I'd move into the secretary role if that's something you guys wanted to do. I mean, obviously it's the will of the board. I'm only one person, so I'm not dictating this. I'm just saying that's something that I would be interested in discussing next week, and wanted to put it out there so you guys could all talk about it. We can talk about it now too, but if you want to talk about it amongst yourselves to see where people are interested in.
Let me jump in just before Matt Fricker says anything, and make sure you know that I will nominate him. I will nominate him for chair. No question.
Matt Fricker, you're on mute, Matt Fricker. You might be saying you might want to be on mute, Matt, because what you're saying is not recordable. But
for vice chair, so I can learn at the knee of the master for a while.
I I think it would be wonderful to have you as chair. I think it'd be a great change. It'd be great.
Oh, boy.
Well, think about it. It's not, and look, if the board wants me to continue to be chair, I'll continue to be chair. But I do think I am finding myself less enthused about doing the chair's role than I was a couple of years ago. So, I think it would be good to have a little break.
That happens, and then it's good to take a break when that happens. And I think Matt
Right.
has some great ideas that I've heard come out, and I'd love to see him be chair and try out the job and see what it feels like. I've already had the pleasure of being chair, vice chair, secretary, sergeant at arms. I think it's Matt Fricker's turn.
Well, I'll give it a try as long as one of you two agree to be ghost chair.
Woo-hoo.
It's my wife that backleads me, not I don't backlead other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could
Yeah.
we could certainly help, Matt. I mean, that's not an issue, and to the extent you hop in your RV and take off, we can certainly cover for that period of time too. But
Yeah.
we don't need to make final decisions right now. I just wanted to put it out there and think about it. If anybody wants to chat with me about the pros and cons, just let me know.
I think that, moving people around and increasing the depth of experience of other people on the board and, getting the changes in perspective and things like that is, I think it's good for the town. And I'm really glad to see Tracy coming on, not just because she has the legal perspective, but, I think she doesn't have any gray hair yet. And we need some youth on the board. So that'll be good.
I agree. Well, let's hope it all works out. So good. I just wanted to introduce that subject. It wasn't necessarily, no decisions today. The next thing is the next 4 months. So, I think we need to talk about, I don't know about you guys, but we've had a lot of long meetings with some pretty weighty things for the past maybe 3 months. We've a couple solar arrays and some subdivisions. I mean, we've had some full slates, and I think that we have, trying to give applicants as much attention as we can in the short period of time. I think we've, kind of not done some other things that we need to do. And, the things that I'm thinking about are, we need to get that subdivision ordinance straightened out. I know Bob took the lead role on that, and really we just need to walk through that and make some decisions about what we want to recommend to the town in terms of making changes. But Bob really did the laboring oar on that. There's the shoreland zoning project, and that's not that difficult. And I may be able to do that, a majority of that off to the side. But it's just getting the new changes in there and getting that sent off to the state. And it's not a huge project, but it's something we have to do. I think we also need to read through our ordinance as a group and see what we're missing.
You mean the land use ordinance?
Right, the land use ordinance, right. Maybe even do some homework and look at like Standish or Cornish's land use ordinance and just kind of compare the two and see what we're missing. I think it also probably makes sense to give our land use ordinance to an expert to look at and tell us if we're lacking in some area. You know, Bob really put this fear in my head that, you know, like the subdivision ordinance, we, you know, had Bob not seen that state law, we wouldn't have known. And, you know, there may be areas where we're supposed to have ordinance changes and we don't have them. And so having a person with land use experience to look at it would be super helpful. Yeah, Joe.
Yeah, I wonder if rather than looking at, say, Cornish's ordinance or Hiram's ordinance, we shouldn't be looking at Gorham's ordinance. I mean, that's what's coming out here, Standish, Gorham. You know, the bigger places. I'm hearing crazy prices on land right now, crazy stories. And we may or may not be flooded. This happens, you know, what, every 10 years that things take off, Maine starts to build like crazy and grow and then it crashes. So it crashes or not is what I don't know. If it doesn't crash, we're in for some real busy years.
Yeah, and I don't know if the I mean, I think that's right. And I don't know if the selectmen kept the growth ordinance in place or not. It hasn't really been needed for a few years, so I'm not sure if they kept it current. But if they did not keep it current, we may want to look at it again and make another recommendation to put that on a special town meeting to get that back in order if it's lapsed, because it had a sunset provision in it that if certain things weren't done, then it sunsetted. That's my recollection. I haven't looked at it in a few years, but now might be the time to make sure that's back on the books so the growth is done in a orderly, effective manner. So the growth permit issue is another one. And then, you know, whether or not there's an appetite for something like impact fees or other things. I mean, those are the things I guess we'll learn when we look at the Gorham and the Standish ordinance. But I just think we need to have somebody look at our land use ordinance to make sure we're not 15 years behind the times in certain places. You know, we wouldn't know it. We need somebody to tell us that. The Southern Maine Regional Planning may be the right place, may not. I don't know. But those are the projects. Anybody else think of any other projects that were, I mean, I think the other thing is we need to look at the outstanding permits to see if any of them have lapsed. We do this every once in a while, and but I think it's a serious effort this time, because I think there are a couple that lapsed that are in between, you know, the petrol, the oil depository on 113. It has to be at the end of its 2 years, and they haven't done anything.
That's lapsed.
And so we should probably tell them if it has lapsed. We should probably tell them. So.
I had phone conversation with about a year ago, advising at that time was getting close, and he said that at that particular time, the business and his economy was such that he wasn't going to pursue it at the moment. So it's dormant right now.
Yeah, I think that permit's done. I don't think they can use that permit anymore. I think it's extinguished. But I mean, just looking at all the permits, going back through the list, I think we did it about 4 years ago. And yeah, Joe.
So with the selectmen having sort of changed policy and pursuing a personal property tax, that's your key on whether the business lapsed or not. Or that is a key. In other words,
That's a key, yeah.
somebody can say, you can't charge me personal property tax because I've got a going business. If they're saying, sure, tax me, I've got a, then obviously they've got a going business.
Yeah, I think that's one indication. And for the ones that were going to build something, if they didn't build it, then,
Yeah.
I mean, Woods Mill, that production facility, they didn't build it. So,
Well, I think it was that he was anticipating more customers in this neighborhood that didn't occur, so he's putting it on the back burner.
yeah. No, it's understandable. I mean, if it doesn't make business sense, then don't do it. I get it. But those are just things that come to my head that we, and the problem is we really need to put these on the schedule and kind of schedule it out over the next couple of months. So we know we're hitting things over the course of the next couple of months. And even if that means pushing applicants out a little further, I think we need to do it because we really have been so applicant focused. We haven't done some of this internal business that we need to do. So if anybody, I guess over the next week, why doesn't everybody kind of sit down and think about if there's anything else, and selectmen, obviously, if there's stuff you guys know of that we should be looking at, let's add it to the list, and then let's, whoever's the chair after the next meeting, build out a schedule, as a group, and put some, half hour, 45 minutes in each one of these projects every meeting, so you kind of get them done. Yeah, Joe.
Well, I'd be willing to take on comparing our land use ordinance to either Standish or Gorham. I'll say Gorham. Just, one person doing it and coming up with some ideas from Gorham's land use ordinance. Maybe if we get through that, I can take on Standish too. I don't know. It just seems like efficient way to do it, to have one person really dig into something and then report back to the rest of the board.
Right, absolutely. So, all right, so that's all I had, except for the Glendale stuff. Rick, are you on, Rick?
I'm not sure if Rick's going to be on. I may have to take over. Start my video. I'll give him a second to answer if he's going to come on here.
No, that's fine. So I'll just set the stage while you figure out. I think everybody knows on the call that we did the site walk for the Glenvale project on last Sunday. We had a decent turnout, probably because there was 2 towns involved. we mustered like 12 people. I thought it was very informative. I think we learned a lot visually. I think there was sufficient area without snow that I think we got a pretty good view of what was going on the project. So, I think the next step is to hold the public hearing and Glenvale folks, if you want to talk, feel free.
Coming from the developer, we're certainly happy and able to answer any questions that arise that you have. So we'd certainly like to move the process, do what we can to keep the process moving along. I think Rick Lomborn not being present just this minute isn't a limitation. James does all the work over there anyway, and you got a few folks from Glenville.
Yeah, so I don't know if it'd be helpful to just run through the whole project again for you guys, or if you've heard it a few times now. No thanks.
Nah,
All
I
right.
don't think you have to. I mean, are there any major questions people have? I mean, I guess that's, is there anything major? I mean, I raised the major issues that I saw during the site walk, but why don't I be quiet for a second? Does any of the other board members or the selectmen have any major issues they want to raise with Glenvale?
I have an idea for the public hearing. When we get to that point, the last solar panel CUP that we did for Joe's Land, the folks put together a PowerPoint presentation that was very effective. It answered a lot of questions, and being able to show that at the public hearing seemed to work very well to inform people, and sometimes clarify and head off any issues before they become an issue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
did you guys
we
get a
have
copy of that?
PowerPoint.
Yeah. James, you got a copy of that PowerPoint, didn't you?
Yes, I do. I have it open right now, and I could run through it with you guys. I was basically just gonna go through the whole project again, or I can send you links.
What I think what Matt is saying is so the board's fairly educated on your project at this point. And I think what would be helpful is, so we'll schedule a public hearing. Somebody on the board is going to do the math in terms of when we have to do the notice and such. But when we have the public hearing, what we found was effective was, somebody from the Glenvale side, do a screen share, take over the screen and go through the project with a PowerPoint, showing the kind of the key facets. I mean, everybody wants to see what the solar panels look like. Everybody wants to see the parcel of property. Everybody wants to, the vision. I mean, from what I've heard, the visuals from 113 are going to be important. I guess I'm just still, I don't understand how you can't see it from 113 if it's on that hill, but if you guys are going to tell us we can't, so that's fine. I mean, I trust what you're saying. When I looked at it, I just don't see how you can avoid if you're up on the hill, but the visual from the hill, like what it's going to look like or the visual from 113, when you look back across the pond, what's the visual going to be? And I keep telling you guys, I don't think it matters what it is. I think you just have to make sure people know what it's going to be. So when it happens, they're not shocked and you don't get upset people. If you're going to be able to see the panels, I think that's fine. You just have to let people know. The size, where the power is going. I mean, you guys know what to do. I mean, but getting that PowerPoint up and walking the public through it, that seemed really effective and answered everybody's questions. There was only like 5 or 6 people on the other one. You don't have to do it for us tonight. You just, when the public hearing.
So if we get the ad for the public hearing in the Shopper's Guide next Wednesday on March 31st, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We can't do a public hearing on the 8th because that's not the 10 days to 2 weeks. We could do the public hearing on April 22nd.
You agree, Joe? And that
That was
right to
the
me.
date I came up with, amazingly enough.
Okay. So we'll schedule the public hearing for 422.
Yeah.
Okay.
It will be via Zoom still, as far as I can tell. And we'll
Yeah,
notice
and showing the
that-
PowerPoint is certainly something we could do for the information meeting, so.
Just for maybe a little context, I think we do have Long Road's PowerPoint, but we also have a PowerPoint that we used at the state meeting in which we held back in November, in which we brought prior meetings. And those I don't want to speak for James, but my impression is he was referring to that. So we could run through our PowerPoint tonight because we have it.
I'm
and,
here with you guys, so.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're eager to keep this moving along. We submitted our application in the 4th of December. So we really would be eager to try and answer your questions, any community questions, and hopefully wrap up. So if the 22nd is the earliest we can do it, we'll take the 22nd.
So that's what we'll do. Aiden, we'll do 422 for the public hearing. So between now and when you build the project, when you start building, what has to happen? You need our approval. You need a DEP approval. What else has to happen?
We need a conditional use permit from Hiram, which Hiram is indicated they're ready to vote, but they want to wait for Baldwin because they are respectful that both towns are impacted by the same project, and access is in Baldwin. And then we have 2 state permits. We expect those to be issued in July. And then we have a letter approval expected from the Army Corps. We're expecting that to come soon. Probably not realistic for it to come in March at this point, but we expect the Army Corps to come in April. So that's the whole set of entitlement. And the other major item we're waiting for from a third party that we don't primarily control, but we try to work with, is the results of the impact study. We're expecting that. That's underway. It's conducted by ISO New England and Central Maine Power. And hopefully we get that in September, and that would put us into construction planning. Assuming all of those 5 documents or sets of documents come together, but that is our expectation. So, yeah,
Go ahead.
Timeline wise, we're not under pressure. If there were something that the town wasn't comfortable with that needed to be addressed at the next meeting or cause us in a response cycle, that is something we're concerned about at this point. We're concerned that there might be, we heard you discuss membership handover. That can be problematic for a project that's underway. So, I think we would just be eager to answer any and all the questions, but we're not like trying to start construction in May and holding everything up because Baldwin hasn't ruled. But this is something that we'd really like all of our entitlement matters to be resolved in the 2nd quarter of this year.
And that the state permits, that's DEP, and what's the other one? Are they both DEP?
They're both DEP. It's site location and the Natural Resources Protection Act. So one's due to the size and the stormwater and being concerned about erosion control, which is, your general construction permit, the SLOTA. And then the Natural Resources Protection Act is dealing with the stream crossings and the wetland conversion.
Aiden, you said that there may be some movement on the property, some changes to it depending on the TIF application and the discussions with the town. Is that still in play, or is what I guess what I think I said before? I don't think we want to vote on the project until it's final. wanted to kind of get your assurance that we're at the final stage of what your project's going to look like.
I don't recall what I might have said that made you think that. So we think the project's final, and we want to get it approved, and we want to try and establish a TIF in each community. What I think I might have said is it's really important to us that the towns kind of are treated equally in a balanced way, because otherwise it causes incentives for us to kind of move. You know, we're permitting 50,000 panels, but in all likelihood, we might only build 46,000. We would like, when we decide which, where to pair the project for construction, I think I was suggesting we'd like not to be in a position where we're incentivized to put panels in Hiram instead of Baldwin because the tax rate's lower. We believe our TIF discussion, TIFs are complicated. Most small communities haven't done it. There's a kind of a stunning education process when towns realize that they lose state aid for growth, and that to put their growth in a TIF is advantageous. And we're kind of there, I think, with both communities. Excuse me. Pardon me, I needed to sneeze. Excuse me. So this is our project. I would say if one town did not give us a TIF and the other one did, it would be a really problematic thing for us as a project, and we'd probably sit down and retool. But we want to build this project. We know that every aspect of it, including the TIF and CEA, is a lot of work to digest, and we're working diligently with both communities. We've been to probably 5 meetings at this point to try and get that done. As far as the land use goes, I think our position we take is that we submitted applications and we want to get the approval for the project we submitted. There's a lot of contingencies developers deal with. Some folks don't have their power contracted when they're at this stage of development. There's lots of things that developers have to deal with, and it's kind of our life is just trying to put one foot in front of the other every day. And today we're trying to put the permitting feet one in front of the other.
Yeah. Bob or Dwight, do you guys have any comment about where you're at with the TIF discussion? Or I don't know. I haven't been part of any of it, so.
Tuesday night, the Hiram Selectmen, we were trying to get them to come down so we can talk about it on Tuesday night. We were trying to get a hold of Drummond and Wilson, whoever it is there, to see if we can set up, get a lawyer to explain some of the stuff on us. And we're in the middle of doing that right now.
So you're still looking a couple weeks out, though. I mean, minimum.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like Adrian says, it's
okay.
There isn't a week goes by that I don't spend 2-3 hours reading about a TIF, and it's pretty complicated. It makes you wonder.
Joe, yeah, you had your hand up.
We haven't done a cost sharing exercise for you yet, Dwight, but we're working in another town. We're working in another community building a similarly sized project where the TIF is going to give an extra $1 million to the community over 20 years. So I know it's hard and you maybe didn't sign up for it, but there's hundreds of thousands of dollars for the community sitting there. And I would just encourage you to persevere.
Joe, you wanted to say something?
Yes, Aidan mentioned something that he was concerned about, and I share the concern, and that is with turnover of the board, and those of us here have gotten used to this Glendale project, and we're familiar with it, and we've been telling James, no, don't tell us anymore, we've heard it enough, and have somebody new coming on who hasn't heard it at all and hasn't been through 2 previous solar projects in the last year with us. I'm concerned he's right. That could be a problem. it could make things a lumpier road to go down.
Yeah, well, we'll still have, I mean, it's luckily it's one board member, not five, so far at least. But yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I mean, the only thing that still confuses me is the wetlands and being able to, but I'm waiting to hear at the public hearing from the, I don't know what you call them, soil scientist, the person that you brought to
Yeah,
the site walk. I hope you'll have it at the public hearing so we can have a conversation with him. You know, the public
certified wetland scientist.
There you go.
Well, with that in mind, I guess it's unfortunate, but we'll just have to try. He lives nearby, but that is frequently, like their busiest 3 weeks of the year is a 3-week period beginning around about that date in April, because that's the only time of year you can do a vernal pool investigation. So
Good news is they can't do it at 7 o'clock at night.
No, but if you've been,
if you've been out in the woods all day, yeah, I hear you.
We have him going up to Camden. So if he's going up to Camden every day that week and coming back and has to do a night meeting, that's rough. But we'll sort it out as best we can. Yeah, Rick's a PE, and James, I don't recall if he's PE yet or EIT, but these are licensed folks as well. So so if you could, Mr. Chair, I'm genuinely kind of curious. I'm kind of maybe two bases from concerned. It seems like you're a 5-member board that just lost a member. Like what's the math on, and two members aren't here tonight by the sounds of it, and maybe they're not engaged. I'm on the planning board in my community. I've been on it a year. There's people I've never met. So what's the math we're dealing with in terms of number of votes we need? And if somebody gets into a minor car accident on the way to the meeting on the 22nd and doesn't show, are we like out of luck that day, or what's your board math at this point?
Sure. We have 4 board members right now out of 5. One of the board members was just elevated to the select board. No, wait, let me make sure I'm doing the math right. We have 4 here, but there's 7 total. There's 7 boards total. We lost 1, so that's 6. The one we lost was an alternate. So we still have the 5 primary board members plus 1 alternate. On the call tonight are 4 out of the 5 board members. One I know couldn't be here tonight because of business commitments, and the other one's an alternate who doesn't shows up once in a while. So you need 3 out of the 4 board members or alternates who show up for a meeting. So if all the board members don't show up, then an alternate can vote. There's really no major issue with numbers. And
Okay.
Matt Sanborn's on the call. He's a board member, but he's not. I know his Wi-Fi. He lives near me, so I know his Wi-Fi sucks. So he wants to listen in and watch, but if he goes on video, then he starts to flicker. So
Can you just watch through your window, David?
pretty much. I mean, it pretty much could, but yeah, Aiden, it's not. I think you're fine on that front. You're not going to lack board members, but
yeah, I'm here. I just don't have the video on, so.
I knew you were Matt. I saw you. But yeah, I mean, in the presentations we've had in the past, the certified wetland scientist was able to address the concerns that the board had upon inquiry, and those were addressed. Yours raises a little different issue that we're we're still, I'd still like to hear a little bit more from him. But I mean, that's, to me, that's the only real part where I just don't understand. I'm getting closer to understanding, after walking the property, I think I understand a little better, but,
Well, I think given that it's online, I'm certainly optimistic that Bill would join, if you need the
He will.
wetland scientist. So, but,
No, he'd be happy to. I mean, he'll end up, well, by then ski season will be over, but if he has a long week ahead of Thursday, he usually ends up taking a couple days and going up to Sugarloaf. So at least in the winter. So,
well, there's nothing we like more than being out in front of people talking about the project. Discounts, but that would be ideal. The prior projects from
Long Road.
What was the, how many meetings were required to a vote after that public hearing?
I think 2. One, I mean, there was the public hearing, and I think there was one more meeting. We asked them to make some revisions to make some revisions. Well, actually, after we talked it through, they offered to make some revisions to the plan. They weren't significant, and it was a long meeting, so I think it was like 9:15 by the time we got done with the public hearing. So, at 9:15, we're not going to take a vote. But I think there was just one extra meeting beyond the public hearing meeting. And, I mean, I think, to compare and contrast, I mean, Long Road did everything they could to stay out of the wetlands, and you guys are building over wetlands. And so I think that may be part of the challenge for us, is to figure out why Long Road spent so much time and energy staying out of the wetlands. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
I'm sorry, I can answer the question, but a little bit, and that is, the wetlands on my property are acreage wetlands. They're huge, they're concentrated, and the wetlands that Glenvale is dealing with are small, minor things comparatively. I mean, there is a huge size difference in what was being dealt with.
You're completely right, Mr. Pierce. The DP has referred to them as finger wetlands. And the second thing that's critically different, well, that was a big project also. It's a little smaller in acreage. It's about half the size, a third of the size. And they're using trackers. Tracking racks are less tolerant of varying subsurface conditions, and are more, they need more regular site maintenance. A generalization is that trackers need to be mowed 2 to 3 times a year, whereas fixed tilt just needs to be mowed twice. So they have some technical characteristics of their project that I think were also factors in how they cited their project. And rather than, and we know that they went back to, they presented an ordinance change. And we didn't, and we're not. So I think there's slightly different projects, and we took different strategies. We're using different technologies. But the type of wetland that Mr. Pierce is talking about, we have that on other sites, and DEP is asking us not to build on, and we're avoiding. We're amending plans right now to do so. So it's what they describe as a finger wetland. They recognize the impracticality, because Maine is riddled with rivulets of poorly drained soil. They recognize the practicality of building over those, and that the change in status is not significant. There's, as I've heard, there's 10,000 square miles of wetlands in Maine, and a lot of it is these kind of inconvenient little rills, so that's a major, that's a practical difference that the DEP has developed a strategy for, and that's permits the project. Now, Rick, I'm talking about your expertise here, so shut me up and.
No,
Right.
you did a good job. You know, the other project that Aiden had alluded to, there was we had a mix. There was a lot of pit and mound, you know, isolated wetlands like we have here that we are going to go over. But when we got closer to the point of interconnect, for whatever reason, the topography had been flattened out probably when the glaciers came through, and there was a large contiguous, I think it was like about 12-acre wetland that was on the property. And while it was not what one would consider any really different than anything else around it, it was really the size and the continuity of it being that it was a big blob of 12 acres versus a little narrow, you know, runoff that had a wetland on it, that put the DEP over the top to say, no, this really should be something you avoid. Whereas this other stuff, you basically you're just going to jump right over it. So, yeah, there's more habitat, I guess, in the contiguous 12 acres that is different than if it's 10 feet wide and 100 feet long or whatever in other cases. So that's kind of the point of view that the DEP is taking on these things. Which is to say, they're not incorrect. They're trying to get the large contiguous habitat areas where the habitat is different than the upland area protected. I mean, as we saw out on the site walk, you know, you can be on one side of the wetland flag and look on the other side. And in the case of some of these wetlands out here, that it's essentially the same. It's just that the hydrology, because you're in the low spot between two rises, is a little bit different, and you get that soil staining that Bill had mentioned to go along with some of the plant, you know, the plant life that's on the brink, on the verge of being one way or the other. But yeah, none of the internal wetlands that we're straddling are of the consequential size that Joe had alluded to that was running into on his property.
You know, I would, I guess, remind folks that the existing road there near the pond, we're protecting what you would, I think, consider as a important scenic resource. We're helping that out considerably by engineering a road and moving the road away from the pond, and it's engineered. So not only are we doing one thing that's legitimate, and we have to do that to get in and out of the site. It's not like we're nice people building a road just for them, but that's a major advantage, because if we don't build our project, any logging that's done on that property is going to use that road. And you could see that road goes within 15 feet of the pond in places.
One spot where it's almost in the pond as you go up, as you get closer to the power lines. But yeah, Aiden's right. We're moving this access road as far away as humanly possible from Ingalls Pond, both self-servingly to get better grade get the grade to be more conducive to getting delivery vehicles in, but also long-term, it gets us out of that buffer and allows the area that the existing road is in to reestablish. And, you know, I mean, when I went out in the summer, there are little pine saplings poking up through it because nobody had been out there in a while. So it won't take very long for that existing wood road to be taken over by trees and vegetation.
Matt Fricker, did you have something you wanted to say?
Well, I think that at the public hearing, emphasizing and clarifying that for the town, that the project has to get permitted by the state DEP, and particularly the Natural Resources Protection Act permit as well, specifically because of these wetlands, so that you know, the thing to emphasize to the folks that come to the public hearing is that this is being looked at very carefully and vetted by the state, which I think you know, certainly is a good thing for the town.
Okay. That's about as true a set of advice as we get at meetings like this, Matt. So definitely duly noted. And you're right. I mean, there's the stormwater expert at the DEP who's looking at it from the site law side of things. Then you have the licensing agent who is overseeing the folks looking at it from the Natural Resources Protection Act arm of things. So there's those two folks looking at it, and then the licensing agent has a couple other folks that he has look at it with him, the state geologist and folks like that. So it's getting they're getting their shot at it for sure.
After the sidewalk, did you guys have a chance to look at the intensity and frequency of the construction traffic, about, you know, what you're thinking in terms of what that would look like, and whether or not any mitigation was appropriate?
That's crossed our mind a couple of times, Mr. Chair. We've not addressed it from a planning perspective because the general contractor isn't involved, and the general contractor would be responsible for executing on any plan. So I think they're probably the best party to write one or to develop one. But yeah, our initial thought is that we would arrange with PYSDs and Son to use the sand excavation area, sand and gravel area of their quarry as a staging post. I mean, getting deliveries is tricky with this industry because the trucks, they either come from New Jersey, California, or Texas, and they're coming long distances, and they can show up at 3 a.m. And they need somewhere to go and be safe for a few hours. So that's part of planning and managing a project. I think we would use the PYSD sand and gravel area as a staging area, and then bring trucks up if we need an organized delivery plan. Bring them up in batches. We did reach out. We proactively reached out to the DOT because we thought of this problem, and DOT told us that there was no special circumstances. But we could certainly we'd be supportive of a condition on coordination around that. That is kind of basic good practice in this with the entry coming off of Route 113.
I will offer that DOT maintains traffic counts on most of their routes that are, you know, they track peak hour traffic. So what we could do is review that information and see when the best time was to take multiple truck deliveries to the site so that we're not overlapping with the busier times on the road. It's definitely something we can figure out just by looking at the existing data that DOT keeps on its own roads. The meeting that I was at just prior to logging onto this one, that was one of the issues that they had wanted us to look at, because it was a commercial project on Route 1 in York, Maine. So we had to refer that same data and then extrapolate it out for build out, which we were using the data for a different purpose to see what the impact of the long-term development would be. In this case, we would use the same type of data for Route 113 to time the, multiple deliveries so that they don't impact the folks in town adversely.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead, Aiden, sorry.
I was gonna say, as a practical matter, my experience, that the tractor trailer stuff comes in batches, and typically, because it arrives anytime after 3 p.m., it's as good as 7 a.m. So majority of those trucks come at 7 a.m. And majority of them will I think be coming north. I guess there's a possibility stuff would be shipped to Montreal, and I imagine if that's the case, they'd be coming from the other direction. But I'd say the majority of trucks will be at 7 a.m. and they'll want to be coming up north on Route 113 and make a right turn, which I guess we could just implement that as a plan anyway. If as long as there's the right turn, such a turning radius that's the best entry to the site. But I think we could pretty easily coordinate that when a general contractor is involved.
Yeah, and I don't think like a single truck would be an issue. It's just if you have multiple trucks coming at one time, that could present a fairly dangerous situation on that road if you have multiple trucks trying to get into a dirt road, dirt access road. And it's in the project sense, it's a pretty short period of time. So like if we did have some concerns, I mean, your build is it's a pretty finite period of time. So it's not like through the life of the project, we're hoping for some sort of traffic mitigation. It's really just, when you have this high intensity use that on a road that doesn't see that kind of use very often, that it seems to me to make sense. But.
Right. Well, I think let's say you had 5 truckloads of solar panels come in overnight and they're staged in the sand and gravel quarry. I think you'd send them up on 5-minute intervals or something like that. And that road will be upgraded to rock with a gravel top course as part of the project. So they will be entering and exiting off a better engineered road than what we walked on at the weekend.
Yeah, are you building up the road to the pit as well, or just the road to the construction site?
Just to the construction site, but I know like there's fully loaded trucks to stand come out of that area, so I wouldn't have any concerns about the ability of that apron or what have you to take trucks, and there's plenty of space in there. So we actually looked at it on Sunday afternoon after the meeting broke. There's plenty of room there to stage a few vehicles. Regretted not being able to thank people in person for coming, by the way. We wanted to do a little training session with Bill O'Connor while we had him in person, and you guys had all headed off by the time we came out. He was training us.
It's all good. Yeah, Matt. Richard.
The staging area that PYSDs is going to provide for you, which will help with this truck traffic issue we're discussing. Is that staging area part of the project that you're leasing, or is this pure PYSD's property?
It's not part of the lease area, but it's part of the same, what I'm describing is part of the same legal parcel, and it has the same owner as our lease area.
I just don't know. I guess what I was getting at is, do we need any kind of document or approval or authorization or clarification from PYSDs that they're going to provide you with this staging area?
I'm sure we could come up with that, but I'd maybe prefer if that were part of a condition that we arrange vehicle access, convoy access with the town, perhaps with your code enforcement officer prior to construction start. PYSDs is our landowner, majority landowner. We have 2 landowners. Our majority landowner is PYSDs. It's the same party, and it's even the same parcel. And we expect to probably be buying some products from them as well. So there's no complexity here in being able to get this arrangement in place.
Matt, I tossed up the Google Maps on the screen. I think the staging area is right in here. Is that where it is?
No, I'm suggesting the other part of the quarry. So you need to move north about half a mile. So that area.
There we go. All right. So your entrance would be up here.
Yep.
The Triple Mountain, which doesn't actually exist.
Little south. So maybe 200-300 feet south from where the Google pin is our site entrance.
Yeah, it's like basically just above the E and Q and Pequawket. A little bit, yeah,
Right in there.
a little bit further south. Yeah, because where it is now, it's actually just over the town line. So
Yeah. So this would be a good topic to cover in the PowerPoint presentation. You know, all the things that are being done to mitigate any truck traffic issues during the build period. You know, the staging area, anything else that just characterizes how problems are being anticipated and addressed before they happen.
okay.
Any other questions from the board or selectmen about the project? And just so you all know that our public hearings vary from 1 to 50 people, with probably a mean attendance of 5. So typically it's people who live near the project who are most concerned about the project. And since you know, you have a couple people who live just beyond the entrance, maybe three houses, 2 houses. Other than that, your neighbors are few and far between. So, you know, I'm not sure how many people will be attending, but you know, we do it to get as many people as we can, obviously.
We had a small group of people come and hire them. I mean, I think the residential abutters you describe are actually, to our knowledge, everybody's in Hiram. And we did have some attendees in Hiram, and you know, think they went away happy.
Yeah, Matt Fricker.
It's just administrative issues. We're going to need to put an ad in the shopper's guide. Is that something you want me to do, or are you going to do it?
If you could do it, that would be great. We also should notify the abutters.
Right, that was going to be my next topic, and I guess I can get into the town office, and you know, as long as I dig up the you know, the map and lot number, I can identify the abutters within 500 feet or yards or whatever it is, and get those mailed out.
I'm pretty comfortable there aren't any, but you can certainly look, because the nearest houses, I think, as Aidan was just saying, I think those actually are in Hiram. And then when you look at the project parcel, you know, it's actually more than 100 feet within the property. So I'm not sure how you're going to, if there's going to be any abutters, but
Yeah.
I think you obviously have to look. And,
Yeah.
you know, you can look online at the tax maps. If you want to look online, the tax maps are all online as well.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I'll take a look. I was suspicious of that because they own so much land there, and this is kind of central to it that you know, it makes sense that there may not be any abutters literally, but certainly figuratively there will be some people thinking about it.
Yeah, I'd love to just correct my last statement, but I very much agree with you. And if you look at the parcels around, Steve and Ricky own the adjoining parcels in a number of instances, with I think one of them in tax title to the town. There is, of course, Ingalls Pond, which is owned by the trust, who we've consulted with and encouraged, and several trustees came to the meeting on Sunday. So I think the Frederick Small Trust, I think, is absolutely an abutter, even if there's no house there. But they seem to be the only abutter who's expressed any interest. And we had to publicly notice our state meeting. So we've had noticed meetings in Hiram and for the state, and had very little attendance. Had no attendance at the state, and then we had maybe 3 attendees in Hiram. One of the Hiram attendees wasn't an abutter, but was just interested in solar as a generality.
Okay, thanks, Aidan.
If I would say, I've developed in this role, or as an overseer of a developer, or kind of writing side, probably 25, 30 ground mount projects. This is the single most secluded, private, unobnoxious site I have worked on in since I built rooftop projects. We'll help you go through all of your questions, but I would not be surprised if nobody shows up to your meeting.
Anytime I've said that, 50 people show up, and I have no idea why. So I don't try to guesstimate what people are interested in anymore, but I hear you. I don't disagree. I mean, honestly, but all right. So one thing we'll do so just to give you an idea of what we did, I don't know if anybody was on the meeting where we approved the Long Road project, but what we did is we first went over all the documents that have been submitted that make up parts of the application, and do a detailed list of that. If you guys want to prepare a list and send it to me, that might speed things up. But and then we looked at the conditions for the prior solar projects, to see what we did with those, you know, in terms of kind of a baseline. And then we, you know, started talking about the project itself. You know, from our perspective, that the application that you've submitted, you know, we're going to hold you to whatever that application is. So if you guys make changes through your DEP process or otherwise, you know, you'll have to come back. I mean, you know, if it's minor, obviously it's not a big deal, but if there's substantive changes, you have to come back. But just that's kind of the process we used with Long Road. It seemed to be pretty straightforward.
I know as of about 2 weeks ago, I spoke with somebody involved in the other project, and maybe it was longer than 2 weeks ago, but recently, and they hadn't seen their they hadn't seen the printed permit yet. So we should make sure that we have that at the time it hadn't been issued.
Yeah, they asked me to look at one word, and I have to go review the meeting minutes to see if that word was included or not. They have them all but one word. So.
Okay. Well, we'll obviously review anything that's in the public domain that we have access to. So if
Yeah, we'll get those to you. I'll get those to you. Yeah.
And to help you out, David, we can certainly put together a list of documents that have been submitted to date. That's not an issue at all.
Perfect. Anything else for Glenvale? Going once? James, you didn't get to talk that much. I'm sorry, man. You look like you were ready to talk, and then Rick shows up.
Sorry, James. Thank you, though, because now I'm easing him in gently.
He was all prepared. I could tell. He was all set. He was ready to go. And
I was ready
yanked
last
it out
time
from
as
under
well.
him.
Rick popped in on me.
It's those damn people over in New York, man. That project's been going forever. It's silly. They are a tough planning board. So nice people.
Big city with lots of concrete.
In York? No, only in a couple spots. Everything else is sand.
True. All right. So Glenvale, I think we're done. At board, I think we're done. But you tell me, is there anything else the board needs to consider tonight other than Glenvale?
Move we adjourn.
Second.
All right. So we'll adjourn. Glenvale, we'll see you in well, however long it is, the 22nd of April. I can't count it that quickly, but
It's about a month. We're
thank
looking
you.
forward to it. Thank you.
About a month. Awesome. All right, everybody. Have a good night. Be
Thanks,
safe.
everybody.
Thanks, folks.